Hi, this is 365801 and this is the 5th video in my BL collection tour behind closed drawers, and that's because I keep most of my BL collection in drawers and not on shelves. Just as a piece of information, that's generally because I have drawers and I don't have shelves. There's no other reason for it other than that. It does keep it out of sunlight though, and that does keep the paper in a slightly better condition. So, just in case you're wondering, that's one of the reasons why. So, I have in this drawer SuBLime, all of my SuBLime collection, or at least some of my SuBLime collection. Some of it is in my other collection, and I'll show you guys at the end, and some of it is in drawer 4, so if you haven't checked that one out, go and have a wee look at video number 4. So, let's get started on all of the SuBLime titles that I own in print. So the first title that I'm going to be talking about is Spiritual Police. Now I mentioned before when I was talking about the Doki Doki titles I own, which is in video 2, that I have some Otodama, and I did a bit of digging since filming that, and yes, there is a 3rd volume of Otodama in Japanese that was not published by Doki Doki, and Spiritual Police is a kind of offshoot of that story, or has some of the same characters or the same themes. So it's in some way connected, which does make me feel a little bit disappointed about reading Spiritual Police because I have not read it yet and I waited because I knew there was supposed to be 2 volumes. I'm not sure if there's actually more Spiritual Police printed in Japan, but I know that there's at least a 3rd volume of Otodama, and that kind of makes me feel a little bit disappointed about reading the series anyway. Once again, Yokanita's work is not fully appreciated when it comes to printing in English, so it's a bit of a shame for all the Yokanita fans out there. This is about detectives and about those with ESP powers and things like that. The second title that I have in this drawer is Sleeping Moon by Kano Miyamoto. This is actually a really good story by Kano Miyamoto. I'm really happy to read it. It's really interesting. It's the kind of BL story that I actually really like, which is not necessarily heavy on the BL and more plot driven. So it's kind of one of those more interesting ones. And that's probably no surprise if you all know that I like the Night Beyond the Tri-Cornered Window. This is very similar. It has very similar sort of themes and similar atmosphere. So it's about a story based on a man who has like a family curse, and then one night he seems to be transported back in time to the Taisho era, which is also something I love, a bit of history, and so his exploration of this family curse that's supposed to be going on. So it's full of mystery. There's something you have to try and work out, and there's, you know, burgeoning feelings, and it's very interesting. I really like it, so I would very much recommend Sleeping Moon. If anyone's interested, it's only 2 volumes, so it's complete in that story. Really good. This is my favourite Kano Miyamoto, hands down. Now this is Coyote, volumes 1 and 2. There is a volume 3 in Japanese, so we'll be looking forward to that. Ongoing story. And this is by Ranmaru Zaria, who has another title out, a digital title on SuBLime's website, and they will have a new title, I think it's Shangri-La, coming out in 2020 as well. So they have some more works. They also have one that was released early in 2020, which I do not have by SuBLime, and that is, I think it's Liquor and Cigarettes, something like that. So I don't have it yet, and I'm looking forward to it because I really enjoyed Coyote. It's in a same sort of vein with Sleeping Moon. I like fantasy, I like plot, I like story, I like mystery, I like intrigue. And I also like it when it's all combined with BL story as well. This is very sexy. It's also a good story, so it's got 2 very good things in it. It's about werewolves and Italian-esque mafia. It takes place in a European type setting, not based in Japan. So it does have lots of really interesting things going on in the story, but you know, underneath it all is the relationship between these 2 individuals, one being a werewolf and the other being the child of the mafia. so, which seems to have a bit of beef with werewolves. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting story. It's very nice. It's kind of quiet and dark, but very sexy, as I said. So yeah, I definitely recommend Coyote if you haven't picked it up yet. So in this drawer, I only have 2 volumes of the Crimson Spell SuBLime editions, and this is by Ayano Yamane, who of course also does Finder, and I've got volume 3 and volume 6. Now, I wasn't sure. I always thought I had volume 3 or volume 4, and then I think I didn't actually, so I was a bit confused about which volumes I had during the transition from one collection to the other. So it turns out I'm still missing volume 4. So I will be on the lookout for a volume 4, and then I'll actually be able to sit down and read all the way through volumes 1 through 6. So I think I've read like volume 2 and volume 5 loads, and I might have another volume 3. I need to check. That might be duplication. So like I might have bought 3 twice thinking I needed to get 3, but I actually need to get 4. Yeah, so a bit confusing, but there you go. So yeah, I have 2 volumes in here, and I don't want to read them until I've got the rest of the story. I do like Crimson Spell. It's very much fantasy, which of course, like I just said, I really like. And it's full of sexy times, which of course I like. The volume 6 cover is probably my favourite because I really like both of the characters. I like the demon. The demon's like sexy wee uke. He is like, yeah, I am dangerous, but I'll let you have it. You know, the demon is probably my favourite. And you only ever see him when he's getting his rocks off, so I don't know why, but that's my favourite. Yeah, it's a good story. What I've read so far is nice, and of course I managed to get volume 1 and 2, which is the previous publication as well. So yeah, I have most of Crimson Spell, just not that one volume, so I'm on the lookout for volume 4. Yeah, most people seem to know Crimson Spell though. Ayano Yamane is like really popular, and she sells really well in Japan, so she's doing well, I think, with her titles. The next title I have is Escape Journey, and that is a 3-volume story by Ogaretsu Tanaka. So I have the complete set, and I have read it, and I have also done a review of it, I think, for the 25 days of manga. So yeah, if you'd like to check out that video, you can. I'll put a wee link on the screen. Escape Journey is a really nice story. I've said everything I really wanted to say in that video, so it's hard for me to say anything more. Other than I really like the characters. It was difficult at times to read, but overall it ends in a nice way, and you do root for the characters. So yeah, it takes you to a little bit of a dark place. Makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable, and as I've said, that's sometimes good if you're wanting to go there. But with this story, I kind of, I wanted it to be all nice and sweet and lovely. But Ogaretsu Tanaka has a really lovely art style I enjoy reading. So yeah, Escape Journey. Go check out my other video. I talk all about it. So this title, Embracing Love by Yokanita, has popped up in a few of my videos. Like monthly manga hauls, whether it's the old version by Be Beautiful, which I will hopefully be able to collect over the years, or this SuBLime version. As I mentioned in the previous video, I'm not sure if SuBLime has dropped it. I wouldn't be surprised because there is a lot of volumes, but if they've been releasing it in omnibus, they could just continue releasing it in omnibus. But if it's been stopped by the author in Japan, then that's something else. But as far as I know, it's not. So I don't know how many volumes there are. If you know, can you let me know? Because I'm like, I don't know how many volumes there are now in Japanese. So if they have dropped it, I think it's a shame. But it is one that I haven't actually completed yet. So I have 1 and 2 omnibus, and I have the 5 and 6 omnibus, and I need to get the next one, the one in the middle. So I might make that a priority so that I've at least got what's available, so I can at least read the volumes 1 through 6, which seems to just be like, we'll print the first start of this story and you'll never get the end of it, so which seems a shame. It's why you learn Japanese. ladies and gentlemen, learn another language so you can read the things you want to read. So, I don't know, I'll look out for the volume and see if I can get one, just so I can feel like, it's completed. So yeah, it's about these two actors who have been adult video actors, and they are branching into a gay-based movie that's for like mainstream release, and their relationship. And of course they had the OVAs as well for this, so if you want to check it out, you can. So here is the title that I probably was most excited about when SuBLime announced it, and that is The World's Greatest First Love. And if you know anything about me, you know that I am a big Shungiku Nakamura fan. I have a huge collection of stuff, which one day I will film and I will show everyone and everyone can see it. But if you've been following me on Twitter for more than a few years, you'll be able to see some of the photos that I posted of some of the things that I've gotten over the years. So much stuff, there's always so much stuff, and there's always more, and I feel like I'm really missing out now. Anyway, The World's Greatest First Love is mostly about the different people who work at the Emerald publishing house. So that's their imprint for shoujo manga, and it's the relationships of all the people who work there. If you don't know anything about The World's Greatest First Love, what are you doing? What? Of course. Shungiku Nakamura has Jinjo Romantica as the main big work that she's known for, but she has done a few other things as well, like Hybrid Child, and she has other ones as well that's been released and re-released too. When it comes to this collection, I do have the full set, I just don't have it all in this drawer. So in this drawer I have a 3 and a 5, and then 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. 13 I think has not yet been released, but I think it will be released soon. Maybe May? Usually in May, I think they try and release World's Greatest First Love, which is around the same time that it's released in Japan. It's either May or September is when they release them. Or sometimes they release them at Christmas, but usually it's around the same time as an Emerald publication, so that they can get a huge big promotion, and as I've mentioned, more stuff. So I can feel really bad about not buying all the stuff now to go with my collection of other stuff, but I do have a lot of things that's Shungiku Nakamura related. But yep, so I'll be getting the next volume of The World's Greatest First Love. Some of these I haven't unwrapped. As you can see, number 11 there is still in its plastic, and that's because I've already read the story. I have it all in Japanese. I've read it all in Japanese. I used to buy the CL. It was CL and Tray were the two bi-monthly publications, and then of course it all got moved to Emerald when Tray was stopped, and CL became still bi-monthly but a larger volume. This is all irrelevant, you don't need to know it. But yeah, anyway, I have The World's Greatest First Love, just not all in this drawer together. Well, this is A Strange and Mystifying Story by Tsuta Tsuzuki, and it is a 7-volume story. I haven't taken out the full thing, I have them at the back, so I've just taken out volumes 1, 2 and 3, but I do have all 7 volumes, and I was dead chuffed to get them. So I did, I think, mention what they're all about in a previous video, so I'll probably try and link that up as well, so if you're interested, check that out. The 3 volumes you can see is the 3 volumes that were available when June published it, and then they lost the license, and SuBLime did a license save, and they have completed the story, so it is now available in its full completion. I remember being in Japan, being able to go into the shop and pull out, you know, all the volumes and be like, why are these not available in English? Because the Japanese was a little bit more difficult. It was higher level and had a lot of specialist vocabulary due to the fact that it was a sort of fantasy story, so there was lots of particular types of words and kanji that were a bit tricky for me to be able to read successfully or with any degree of fluency. So, A Strange and Mystifying Story, only 3 volumes were available and the 4th volume when it came out was like a really big day, I think, for most fans of this story or fans of Suzuki Tsuta. I actually really wish that some of her other works were available in English. She's got a few that she's got just now, and I honestly don't know what they're about, but they look lovely. And some of her older ones, there's a really lovely story. I had a Japanese volume of it, and something like someone about 3 doors down, and about the younger brother liking the older brother's friend and how they have their relationship. And that was a really nice one-shot, and I wish that was available in English, because I had it in Japanese and it was much easier to read than this one was in Japanese, so I could sit there and translate it if I wanted to. So, a strange and mystifying story. Once again, a sort of fantasy with an element of mystery and the modern and the past, and a bit of boys love and sexy times thrown in. It's just everything I love. So, which is why it was such a big thing when the 7th volume was published. It felt like, nice. You hung in there all these years. Like, to be a BL fan is to know patience. So yeah, check it out if you haven't. Give it some love. Suzuki Tsuta has a really nice art style, and she likes a range of characters, but she's definitely got a particular style, and I like it. So check it out. Now in this drawer I have volumes 1 and 2 of Candy Color Paradox by Isaku Natsume, and I'm kind of annoyed with myself that I don't have volume 3 and volume 4, although I think that there is a volume 5 in Japanese, so that means it's not complete yet, unless volume 5 is completion. Because I really like Isaku Natsume. I really like her work. I really like her characters. I could just sit and read her work all the time. So I have a really nice art book of hers, which has some extra stories in it that are only available in the art book. So go and check it out if you'd like to. It's bright yellow. It's got, you know, really good characters on the front. So and I happened upon it when I was in I want to say Mandarake, but it maybe was an anime. No, it was a Mandarake. I found it in Mandarake and I was like, what? I've never seen this before. Wow! I got really excited, and then I went to an anime and found it, and it had literally just been released, or it was like the day before it was supposed to be released. Anime does this sometimes, when you'll go in before the date that it's supposed to be released, and it's there for you know, purchase, and you can buy it and get something free, and it's like, well, I thought this was supposed to be released on this day, so I haven't come to anime. So now I realised, well, at that point I realised, right, okay, so I have to go in early, a few days before the release date, just to check to see if that anime has it, so that I can get the free stuff that comes with it. The trials and tribulations of being a BL fan in Japan. Whew. It was great. I loved it. But yeah, so I ended up seeing this brand new volume of Isaku Natsume's art book in the anime, and if you bought it you got free stuff. So I'm not sure if I bought it again. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I was like, no, it's fine, I don't need the free stuff. Probably didn't. I might have 2 copies. So I'll have to find out. It's all in my other collection, all boxed up and packaged, so one day there'll be the grand unboxing. But yeah, I'm annoyed with myself because I love Isaku Natsume's work. I have the digital copies that SuBLime have for the stories. I'm trying to think. Sweet Honey or something like that. I can't actually remember off the top of my head. But I do have her digital copies that SuBLime have. But I don't have volume 3 and 4 yet, so I do like these characters, they're fun. So the next title is Love in Limbo, volumes 1 and 2, that's it complete, by Haji, and I remember when I first got the first volume, and I read it, and I was like, what is this? No idea, didn't really connect, found it a little bit strange, felt like there was more going on, and then when I got the second volume, I reread the first volume and was like, no, I love this, this is great. This is just right up my street. It's really cool. It's like fantasy. It's got great costumes, got really great characters, and got some cute sexy time, some sweetness, some adventure, and a bit of mystery as well. So yeah, it has a little bit of everything, and so I really liked it. And I really enjoyed volumes 1 and 2. It was sweet, it was a nice story, but it was also interesting. It had lots of other aspects to it. So it's only 2 volumes, so if you're considering giving it a go, I'd say definitely give it a go, because it's only 2 volumes. What have you got to lose? Love in Limbo is actually a really interesting, fun, dynamic little story. So I can't wait to see what Haji's got, what else they might bring over. So SuBLime, I'm giving you the green light. On you go. More Haji, please. Whatever she's got, I'd like to read more of her work. So this is a one-shot by Scarlet Berico called Jackass, and if you don't know what this is, where have you been? Living under a rock? Come on, get your shit together. It's just brilliant. I love it. I love Jackass. It's complete in 1 volume, so it's really good. You can just flick through it, and it's about the relationship between 2 guys in high school. So they're in their senior year, I think, and one of them has a bit of a fetish for beautiful legs in black hosiery, and the other has not very much money, doesn't really think of himself as attractive, and is very sort of house proud, works hard, cooks meals, very domestic, and runs for exercise instead of joining a gym or anything like that, because it's cheaper. So in that way he's making his legs beautiful. And there's a accidental hosiery incident. How often do you get to say that in recommending a BL? Accidental hosiery incident that involved the other boy. So there you go. I mean, it's just very sexy. It's very sexy because it doesn't involve too much other than a glimpse of a leg in stocking, which was mighty shocking, and it did kind of jolt the 2 of them into this kind of relationship. I've just flipped it round because I need to show the back, because the back is brilliant, and I really want to have that t-shirt that says I have a big dick. I mean, who wouldn't want a t-shirt that has that on it? It just looks brilliant. And these are the other characters that are in the story. One of them looks very effeminate and gets teased a lot, but doesn't give a monkey's. They are like, this is who I am. And the person who's bullying them is obviously, he knows he has some sort of hiding his sexuality. He is very much one of those homophobes that are actually gay and isn't coming to terms with his own sexuality. So I actually really like him as a character. In fact, I like them all. The only person I don't really feel like I connect with is the nurse. He's not a teacher, he's a nurse, so he's in the nurse room, or the infirmary room. I didn't really take to him because he doesn't really show much of himself in the story. It's not really, he's kind of like a secondary character, he's not really there. Whereas even the other character who works at the modelling agency, he seems to have more character to him than the nurse. So that's my only, if it is a minor detail, is a bit of a gripe about the fact that I don't really see much of character in him. He seems a bit 2D, whereas the others, they all seem like they have a lot more personality. Especially the sister, always got to love a positive representation of women in BL, and she sounds great. She sounds like someone I'd want to just have a drink and a meal with, so yeah. She's the best, actually. She's probably my favourite character in the whole thing. That and that t-shirt. So the last title in the back row is 10 Count by Rihito Takarai, and there are 6 volumes, and I'm just showing the first 4. The other 2 I'll just keep at the back. This is one I think I've talked about before in a previous video. I really love Rihito Takarai Rihito's work. I love the work that she's done with, I want to say Venio Tachibana, is that her name? I love her art style, so beautiful, really nice. She draws really sexy times. Woof, it's very sexy. This is a very sexy story. But it's not the best representation of mental health and mental health professionals. So as someone who knows mental health professionals, I don't think it's a good representation, certainly not accurate representation. It would get one of the characters, Kurose-kun, he would be struck off the register. So it's not brilliant in that respect. Shirotani, I think his name is Shirotani, he has, is it mysophobia? I'm not entirely sure how to say that. Due to, he's developed it, the way that it's presented, he developed it due to some sort of childhood trauma, which involves sexual awakening. And so it's not a great story in that respect, but if you just kind of go, hey, it is what it is, you know, just go with it, go for the ride. It's very sexy, very fun. So yeah, if you like Rihito Takarai's work, her art style and her storytelling, it's very good. I really like it. So, it was very popular a few years ago, and there was lots of things. So I have some of her character goods and things like that. So I think I have the art book maybe, and a calendar and some other stuff as well. So 10 count. It was very big, very popular a few years ago, and I think now that it's all been completely released, its maybe popularity is waning slightly, but I'm really happy to have it all in my collection. So next I have His Favourite by Suzuki Tanaka, and I only have in this drawer volume 5, volume 8, 9 and 10. So the newer volumes, and a random volume 5, the rest of the series I have in my other collection. Volume 10 was released maybe a couple of years ago, and there will be a volume 11 released, I think maybe this year. So I'm looking forward to that. It's a fairly simple premise. You know, the kind of story where the popular kid in elementary school, who seems to be the tallest and the most outgoing, and has all of the personal qualities and characteristics that elementary school children love. And he doesn't have a great relationship with the chubby fat kid, who is actually quite mean and spiteful and a little bit sadistic under all of that. And then they end up growing up, having, you know, gone through junior high school in different places in different ways, and when they meet again, their kind of roles are completely reversed. One is tall, athletic, good looking, has the appearance and charm of a prince, and just seems to ooze charm and wit and style, and it's just all round perfect, and everyone laughs. And then the other boy has turned into quite a scrawny, ugly, well, they all reference him as like a little monkey, which is a really rude thing to say, just because he didn't really grow very much since elementary. From being the tallest, then he became the shortest, and he doesn't have a great facial features, and but the incredibly popular, gorgeous guy is totally smitten with him. And how it's managed to get to 11 volumes is anybody's guess, and yet I'm like, yay, 11 volumes! I really like it. It's so sweet, so slow and easygoing, and nothing really seems to happen, but all of the characters, especially all the secondary characters, they just get added in, they're there, they're fun, and then the story moves on. But you know that the two of them are just gonna be together. And it is very much his character just gradually coming to terms with the fact that he is in love with a man, and that they are in love, and they are much more lovey-dovey in the later volumes, where things get a bit sexy. But this is not one where you necessarily see any sexy times. I think when you go in to buy these, they're never wrapped, they're always just as they are. So I don't think it's seen as being overly explicit. It's very much maybe a kiss is about as far as it goes, although there are also digital like doujinshi type things on SuBLime's website as well, so I think you can go and check them out. They're a little bit more explicit, but not really, not that much. I mean, not for me anyway. But it's a lovely, sweet story. This would definitely be classed as like shonen ai back in the day, but it's a nice story. It doesn't really matter what it is. So yeah, his favourite. It's quite a big series if you haven't collected any of it yet, considering it's already at volume 10. But it's definitely one to check out. Maybe get some of the earlier volumes and see if you like it. Obviously, Suzuki Tanaka has Menkui, which I mentioned in I think the first video. I think he's had some other works as well. Oh yeah, that was Love Hurts, which was that odd one that wasn't quite BL, that had that weird alien story. But yeah, so this is obviously her biggest, most popular and favourite manga. So this is SuBLime's version of Finder, the Finder series by Ayano Yamane. I have volume 2, I think 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, but I don't have volume 1 or volume 8 in this drawer. I have them in my other collection, and I have not yet bought volume 9, which I think is the last one that's been released, so 9 volumes of this series in total. This is a series that has been saved twice. First, it was published by Be Beautiful, and I don't have any of those yet. I think there was 3 volumes printed by Be Beautiful. They're a little bit more tricky to get hold of, and they're usually sold incredibly expensive. It's like £20 or £30 for a single volume, which I don't really want to spend considering I have the story already. I also managed to get volumes 1 through, is it 6 or 7? I think it's up to volume 7 in June Manga's version, so they then got the license from Be Beautiful. Because Finder is such a popular series in Japan as well as abroad, then it's worth having in terms of being able to make sure you get some revenue in as a publishing company. I'm assuming, maybe not, but I would assume that it's worth, you know, it's a cash cow type thing. Definitely in Japan. It's definitely worth having in Japan. So it's been Be Beautiful, then June Manga. I managed to get that whole set, the June set, in a one-hour, and I got it for a really good price, so I was really happy to get that. And then of course they started printing them, so I was like, woohoo, I can finally continue on the story. But yes, I have 1 and 8 in my other collection, and I will need to get volume 9. This is just the story of well, is there much of a story? It seems to me that this is like many of the series that have several volumes now and have been published for a long time, that they started off with like it seems like a one-shot. It definitely felt like that was like a one-shot story, that there wasn't necessarily plans to make it into a big long series. Anyway, it's about some sort of mafia businessman and a cameraman and their sexy times together, and then a sprinkling of Chinese mafia, some Russian mafia, and it's actually a comedy. Yep, it's a comedy. No, it's got comedic elements, especially to little extras and things like that. But yeah, it's kind of dark. There's a lot of assault. It's not great in that respect, but as usual when it comes to BL, there's a lot of things that aren't great about BL if you think about it in a PC way, but BL's not really PC. So Finder is full of sexy times. So yeah, I really like the, I don't know, is it an actual animation? It's not really. It's not really a proper animation OVE type thing, but the voice actors are really good in it, so I like the voice actors. And I do like her artwork, it's very beautiful. So, Takaba, is that his name? He's always sexy. Anyway, it's a good series, but it's a bit on the hardcore side, so if you're new to BL, I wouldn't necessarily choose this one to start with. This next series is Hide and Seek by Yaya Sakuragi. I love Yaya Sakuragi. And just picking this up, I was putting it down thinking, oh yeah, I just want to check. His name is Tanihara, and I couldn't quite remember the last name of the doctor. It doesn't really tell you. I think it's Takafumi, just says what his first name is. It will say at some point, because I think it's the same name as the doctor's like surgery that he works at. Anyway, of course, I just started being like la 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 through the story just to check through if I could find it, and that was me sitting reading this story for about 10 minutes going, oh, you were in the middle of doing something, weren't you? Oh yeah, making the video. So yeah, I got distracted quite easily by hide and seek. That's just how good it is. This is a really great adult story. This is about Tanihara-san, who is Shuji, his name is, and he works at a mom and pop type like sweetie and toy and newsagent type store, which you don't get very often now, even in Japan. I have been inside a couple, and it did make me think of the story rather than the other way around, and it is really interesting to be in one of those where it's usually like an old man in his 60s, 70s or 80s still behind the counter smoking cigarettes and reading the paper or listening to baseball in the summer. And that's pretty much what he does. He's divorced, he looks after his daughter, but anyway, so they're divorced now, which means there's an opening there, and this new doctor who comes back to take over the practice that his family have just for covering family members, is gay and comes out and says, I'm gay and I think you're attractive, and it becomes a bit of an intrigue, like, hey, I'll give it a go. And that's because he has seen his friends from Bond of Dreams, Bond of Love go through that sort of like, hey, maybe I'm gay, I'll give it a go, and he's kind of open to that, and he gives it a go. So it's a very open, very sort of like, yeah, relaxed but sweet and also very sexy kind of story, and it seems very adult, like, oh, this is what I have to say on this. There's a lot of dialogue, there's a lot of conversation, there's a lot of communication, and I like that. It's nice that they're actually being adult about it, and they talk about things like how sex is between them, and condoms and lube, and what it's like to be in a relationship, and yeah, it seems more adult and straightforward than some other stories in BL, and it has Yaya Sakuragi's lovely artwork as well, so this is one of my favourites, I think, just because it's just so easygoing. Only 3 volumes, so if you like that, hide and seek. This is also one of the stories that was published in CL, so it was one that I was reading in Japanese before it was released in English, so it makes me feel good to have it in English. Now, I mentioned previously that Finder seemed to be a kind of series that started off with a one-shot that was on the little unsavoury side. At the time, that was perfectly acceptable and the norm to have those kind of stories, and publishers would ask for those kind of stories. Now, some of you might be wondering why that's the case. They would ask a range of mangaka to produce a story with a theme, so they would then produce a sort of large trim, very thick omnibus type magazine, or very large thick publication. All of the stories would have a similar theme, but they would be from a range of mangaka, and from those they would get feedback, and those mangaka would then be able to take on those stories further, or they would be able to produce their own story. So it was a way of garnering attention for up and coming mangaka, but it was also a way of testing the water with types of stories. So if the mangaka had an idea for a story, or they had some characters that they thought might fit, they would produce a story. And just like Finder, that seemed to be the case, and also Don't Be Cruel seems to be the case, that it started off with a one-shot that involved assault, and even the mangaka herself has said that she's not particularly pleased about how this story started out, and she's even put that into the later volumes as well. the kind of character development has addressed how it was actually started as a story. So I think that's really important, it's really interesting to see, and it's also very relevant to today's society. Yonezo Nekota is quite prolific. She has some really good big series. These are really, really popular series in Japan. She also produces lots of doujinshi, so she goes to doujinshi events. So I have lots of her doujinshi. I really like Yonezo Nekota's work. I have some of the character goods as well for these two characters. I really like Don't Be Cruel, but it always did bother me slightly how the story started, and she herself as a mangaka has addressed that. And it shows that however long this has been going on for, which I think it's like, I don't know, well over 10 years, 15 I think for World's Greatest First Love, and almost 20 or so, something for like Junjo Romantica. These titles have been going on for a long time, so how they started and how the world viewed things is like 2 decades ago. Like, obviously we're going to have different ways of thinking about things, and I like the fact that the mangaka herself has developed and changed and been like, yeah, I'm not really sure I like this, I'm going to address it in the story too. So Don't Be Cruel might not be how you like your stories now, but how it's developed and how the characters developed almost seems as though the mangaka is growing up and maturing, and her worldview is expanding, just the same way that mine is. So I think that I'm probably around the same age as her, which makes me feel good that I'm growing up with her as well. So Don't Be Cruel doesn't have the best start, but it definitely is one that I'm going to keep following and keep collecting. I do love the characters, and I do like the angstiness that goes along with this one, and I very much love the sexy times. Maya is one of the best semis. I don't know why he doesn't get more love in the kind of rankings of semis. He's just one of my favourites. Maybe because if you look on volume 7, he's not really seen as the ultimate semi in this series. So the other character is. Maybe that's why. He's not ultimate, not alpha male semi in the same way that others are. But he's very well drawn. I almost said something else there. Very well drawn. And I'm gonna have to get volume 8, so I'm a bit behind. In this drawer I only have volumes 5, 6 and 7. I have 2 volume 5s for some reason, and I have my Japanese volume 8. So I have 1 behind at the moment, and I will be 2 behind when volume 9 comes out. So I need to get those as well. So this is Punch Up by Shioko Kano. In this drawer I have volume 2, 3, 4 and 5. 5 was released last year after quite a long time of having no other volumes, so I think a lot of people had just assumed that it finished at 4. Suddenly 5 was there, which meant that she was still publishing and carrying on the story, and 6 will be published I think this year, 2020 as well. I do have volume 1, both digitally, but I also have a physical copy in my other collection as well. The story is about an architect, I think his name is Motoharu, and Oki, who is the sort of a construction worker. And so I really like the fact that his uniform, is the clothes that he wears on site, is very accurate. I've seen construction workers in Japan and they wear that, so when I was like, oh cool, that's actually real, I got all excited. I can't say these are my favourite characters. I enjoy it because it's easy to read, it's very surface, it doesn't feel like it's in-depth, it doesn't emotionally touch me in a way that I'm going to be thinking about the story for hours and hours or days and days after I've read it. It's very surface, very quick, easy to read, and that's probably because there's quite a lot of spexy times in it, which is, you know, easy to read. But I don't particularly like the semi character, the architect Motoharu. He just, like, there's a lot of things that they put in the story for comedic effect, but I just don't really find him funny. I wouldn't want to be in a relationship with him. I'm being honest. He seems like a bit of a douche, so I think Oki deserves more. because I don't know. Shioko Kano seems to like him, but I'm not really a big fan of him as a character. He seems a bit immature, considering he's supposed to be the more mature character. I don't know. So yeah, there's elements to it that I'm not particularly a fan of, but like I said, it's an easy read. It's very surface. But I was kind of excited to hear that there would be a volume 5 when it came, and I was like, whoa, okay, I'm gonna have to get the rest of the series. And so I made an effort to collect them. And I will get volume 6 when it comes out as well. It would be nice to have the whole series together, but you know, one day I'll put them all together in the same drawer. Yeah, it's a good one to collect if you like Shioko Kano. She has a lot actually published. I've been going through my collection kind of going, oh, that's Shioko Kano too. Oh, that's that as well. So yeah, there's a lot for Shioko Kano fans. Obviously not Playboy Blues, you can only get that one volume. I don't think they'll ever get Playboy Blues in English. That's it, it's had its chance. But you can get Punch Up. So the next one I have in the drawer is Awkward Silence, and this is a complete 6-volume series by Hinako Takanaga, and it's probably one of her least offensive ones. I know that a lot of people have issues with some of her work, but this is a kind of sweet, easygoing read. I haven't yet finished it because volume 6, I don't know if you can still see it's in its packaging, so is volume 5. I was doing a reread and I've stopped and I need to go back and reread it, so I was going to read the full series. I wanted to do the whole thing. There is also a couple of digital like doujinshi titles, which I don't have yet, but I'm going to need to get for reading the whole thing. So I want to do a review of Awkward Silence, and I was in the middle of doing it and then I kind of stopped, so I haven't read volume 5 and 6 yet. So I need to go back and do that. It's a really nice, sweet story so far. I'm enjoying it. I like even the secondary characters as well. So, and I love all the wee chibis on the front, expressing the emotions that this character is unable to express himself. And I thought when I first, came across this series, oh, that's like, yeah, right, like no one's that unexpressive. But yeah, in Japan there are a lot of people who just don't express anything on their face at all. I remember having this party. I threw this party for the students I was teaching, and they'd never had a Halloween party before, so I made like a huge deal and I went all out. And one of the girls just turned around and sat down next to me, and she had like the face with no expression and went, "This is amazing, this is fantastic. This is the best. This is so fun. I've never had this much fun in my life." And she said it monotone like that. She had no expression on her face. And I turned around and went, "Really? Because you look like you're dying inside. Could you not crack a smile?" It was like, hello! I did all of this so you guys would have fun. And she was having a great time. But she didn't look like it. So, yeah. Awkward silence. It's not a silence, it's just that awkwardness of no expression. And there are people like that in the world, and it's a bit sad actually. So, yeah, maybe this is how I remember this, how I connect with this story. So I like Awkward Silence, and I'm actually looking forward to finishing it whenever I do. Okay, so this is the second title by Bora Naono that I have, that's published by SuBLime. The other one is Three Wolves Mountain, which was a fairly new acquisition. That's in video number 4. I have to be like, which video is this? And this is Midnight Stranger and Midnight Stranger 2, The Trouble with Strangers. And as usual, it's to do with fantasy and sort of, that's about it. It's a bit to do with fantasy. Fantasy and little random things like a goat god and a fire god. And as usual, it's got all the things that I like from Bora Naono. Cute characters, nice interactions. There's a lot more story going on in this one than in some of her others. It's not all about smexy times. This is actually, to do with a relationship and other characters as well. So I like this one. It's really fun, it's really interesting. And the fact that it's only 2 volumes means it's easy for you to get if you're interested in her work. She does have some other works published, like Yokai's Hunger, which of course is also sort of fantasy. It does have elements to do with like Japanese beliefs, and I like that. I like when she brings in elements of mysticism and mystery and fantasy. And yeah, as usual, that's my jam. That seems to be my jam anyway. It seems to be someone else's jam because they seem to be publishing a lot of that in SuBLime. So maybe we have similar tastes, whoever is choosing to do it, doing the publications there. So yeah, 2 volumes only, really easy to get hold of. So this is the final title in this drawer, all SuBLime works, so everything's by SuBLime. And this is also the Yaya Sakuragi work that I have here, and it's Bond of Dreams, Bond of Love. So it's also connected with Hide and Seek, because Tanihara-san is in this story as well. It is also in some very small way connected with T for Two, which is the blue title that I mentioned way back in video 1. So that's the other Yaya Sakuragi title I have. And as I mentioned in the first video, there is a couple of titles that I don't have of hers, which is Hey Sensei and Stay Close to Me, or You? I don't know, because I don't have it. So Bond of Dreams, Bond of Love was being released by CL or Tree, I can't remember which one it was, when I was in Japan, so I was reading it there as well. Quite a few of the ones that they've got in here I've read in Japanese or were released by CL and Tree. So yeah, they must have a good relationship with that publisher, which makes me wonder about some of the mangakas that are in that publication that aren't published yet in English, or maybe it's the actual mangaka themselves that has more clout when it comes to making these decisions. I'm not sure, but thank you Yaya Sakuragi for producing this work and giving me the opportunity to read it in English instead of having to traipse through it with a wee Japanese dictionary, reading furigana. So Bond of Dreams, Bond of Love is about Ao and his relationship with Ryome. Ao is a boy who lives with, is it his granny? Yeah, I think it's his granny. He lives with his granny and his mum and his twin brother, oh sorry, spoiler alert, lives separately. So he lives with his granny who has a snack bar, and I've been in Japan and I've seen these snack bars and I've never gone into one. Well no, I have actually. Tell a lie, I have been in a snack bar. It was fun. I did karaoke, it was good. And the snacks were really funny. She served like Pocky sticks and little cubes of cheese. It was like baby bells. It was dead weird. It was fun though. I had a good time. Anyway, so she owns a snack bar and he lives with her. He, I think, did he do karate as well? So the boy who's in T for Two is his pal, and so that's how there's all these little connections. And Tanihara-san, who's in Hide and Seek, is Ryome's friend, so they're all connected. Ao anyway has a bit of a thing for Ryome. Ryome is both a Shinto priest and also does another job as well, which is developed in that, but I won't spoil that for you. And basically Ao just has a basic, huge crush on him. He doesn't really realise it's a crush until he's a bit older, and then he's like, yeah, and he pursues him. So he really goes all out on trying to seduce Ryome as the older man. It's not coming from one way or the other. So the power dynamic definitely doesn't feel predatory. And it's like addressed, it's very much like this is how it's going to be. It's not going to be this older man going after this younger kid. There is a little bit of but then he is just portrayed as being very young, even though he's like in his final year of high school. So yeah, it's very much like, hey, I like ya, I want to get with ya, and he's like, no, you're a bit too young for me, but they end up like having a relationship in the end. It's 4 volumes, easy reading. I really enjoy it. It's dead sweet, it's lovely, and I like the idea that it's connected to other stories. So last year I just did a big Yaya Sakuragi read, and I think I read Tea for Two, and then I read Bond of Dreams, and then I read Hide and Seek. So I just did it all in order, and it was really good. It was like a really nice week of just Yaya Sakuragi. So I'd very much like to get the other titles, which would be difficult to get hold of because they're June and not SuBLime. So yeah, Bond of Dreams is a nice one to get. So just to go through some of the titles I have for SuBLime from my other collection. Now I'm starting with Blue Morning. Most of those I have actually taken out of there and put into my drawers, so they don't really count because I do have the complete set. There is also the Love Stage, which I removed, and so that I can actually read it, so I've taken them from my other collection and put them into my drawers too. Down the bottom you can see Don't Be Cruel, that's the omnibus versions of 1, 2 and 3 and 4, and also Don't Be Cruel Plus and Don't Be Cruel Akira's Story. So they're single volumes, and I really would like to have them in my collection so I can just sit and read the whole of Don't Be Cruel, because I could probably read it and reread it and reread it loads and loads and loads of times. So I also have World's Greatest First Love, as I mentioned before. I have the rest of it, so volumes 1 through 6. As you can see, I have 2 volume 2s, which means I also have 2 volume 3s and 2 volume 5s. I also have the volume 1 and volume 8 of Finder, which completes with what I've got. Obviously I still need to get number 9. I also have the print version of Punch Up volume 1, and then I have his favourite, so the rest of his favourite, which completes the set too, so 2, 3, 4, 6 and 7. So that means I've got everything that's published for his favourite too. At the next one I've got is Starting With a Kiss, and the complete series of Starting With a Kiss is 3 volumes. That's Yokanita's work, and that's probably one of my favourite Yokanita's work. It's complete, doesn't seem to have any issues. I like it, it's good fun, and it's very sexy. Underneath that is The Awkward Silence, which I've removed and put in this collection as well, so that doesn't really count. And then I've got over on the top, I've got The Crimson Spell 1, 2 and 5, which goes along with my Crimson Spell 3 and 6. So that does mean I just need to get volume 4. Then I've got Sleeping Moon, volume 1 and 2 Spiritual Places. Now I took one of the Spiritual Places and that's in my drawers, so I actually have another volume of Spiritual Places. Why? I don't know. Then there's my Embracing Love, volume 1 and 2. And then underneath that I've got Tableau Numero 20 or 20, I don't know. So that's the Est-M title that was published by SuBLime. So that's only one of 4 that she's had printed. And then there's 10 Count, volume 1 and 4, which I think might be duplications, so I might have more. Yeah, I think they're extras. Underneath that is The Man of Tango, Okadaya, which is very mature, very manly, and about dancing and men. It's very good. I liked it a lot. Honey Darling, honestly, I can't really remember what it was about. I bought it so long ago. It's one of their earlier publications, so I know it was enjoyable, but I have no idea what it's about. I can't help you. Nights after that is Yona Deco. I love Yona Deco. She's one of my favourites. Obviously, a big mangaka in Japan. And Nights was, I think, originally doujinshi, that she then had collated with some other stories and published as an actual volume. And it's very sexy. I love it, and I love Nights. And the story with the I can't give it away. I can't even talk about it because it's such a good story. If you don't have Nights, get it, because it's brilliant. If you're a fan of Yona Deco, you obviously have it, so I don't need to tell you. But isn't it great, that little twist when you're like, oh! And the sexy scenes, oh, they are very sexy. Very sexy. And then right at the bottom there is False Memories, and for some strange reason I have 2 volumes of volume 2. So, volume 1 and 2. I think I might have them digitally as well, for some strange reason. But they are Isaku Natsume's published works. So, I do find it interesting that some of her works is exclusively digital, and some of her works was both digital and print. I don't know why. Maybe it's to do with who it was published by originally in in Japan, so maybe that's something to do with it. But yeah, so that's everything I've got from SuBLime. There are still a lot of the new titles. I think the last time I bought some new titles, it was back in 2019, so everything from, I'm thinking around maybe October, November time in 2019 up till now, I need to get, because I haven't been getting any of the newer releases. I've just been buying out of print stuff, so and obviously I need to get volume 4 for Crimson Spell. But I've been keeping up, I think, not too bad, and I'll probably just get a big chunk of them all in a oneer at some point and just add to my collection when I've got some money. So yeah, I'm really happy and pleased with and proud of my SuBLime titles, so yeah, that's everything I've got. So that's everything for drawer number 5, which is most of my SuBLime titles. I hope you enjoyed it. I also have obviously the ones that are not in the drawer. I very much like to have them all together because it feels really nice to have complete sets. So there's a few complete sets in this drawer, and it makes me feel really nice to just have a complete set, a full story, all published, all in my possession. It just feels nice. So I'd like to one day have them all together. I think I will need to have 2 drawers though to be able to do that at least. So yeah, if you're a big fan of SuBLime, go check out their website. They also have some digital titles. I do have quite a few digital titles there, but I don't have as many digital as I do print, and that's where my focus is. I always try to get the print titles rather than the digital, but I like buying their digital titles from their website because it does mean that you can download the PDF and you can put the PDF on any device that you have, so it's not necessarily just Kindle or just Nook. So yeah, go give SuBLime some love. They give you plenty back. So I'll see you in the next video. Haven't decided which one it's going to be yet. I might go for I don't know which publisher I should go for next. Let me know in the comments below if you've got a BL publisher you have in mind and you think, hey, she hasn't done them yet. I want to see what she's got for that one. So see you in the next video, guys. Take care.